obviously 3 bedrooms, and you want to choose the best one. So he ran inside, and when we got in there, he was upstairs, and he was in the smallest bedroom, and there was a bed in the room, and a big fat mattress on it, and he was so excited, he said, there's a bed. I said, well, of course there's a bed. He said, well, do you think Bob might leave it for me? I said, I don't suppose he'd mind. Why don't we go and ask him? So he went in the other room, and he pulled on Bob's coat, and he was there with his parents. He said, Bob, do you think you could leave the bed behind? Bob said, yeah, of course, you can have the bed. Basically, that's what sold the house. I think the young boy had probably not slept in a bed before. So he was so excited, and the parents were excited because their young child was going to sleep in a bed. And so it's like we're selling an opportunity, because these people couldn't get a mortgage, they were forced to rent property.
Same day we collected £1,000 holding deposit, and within 28 days we had the £7,000 in our bank account. We sold the house before the seller moved out. How powerful is that? Okay, £7.99 a month, that gives us £250 net cash flow over a 5-year period. Right, let's discuss this. It takes, on average, based on our records, 5 years for a buyer from the day they move in to the day they pay us out completely, either by selling the property to a third party or getting a mortgage. It takes, on average, about 60 months for somebody to pay us the whole amount for a property. So, taking 5 years into consideration, we will make £15,000 net cash flow over that period. Also, £20,000 back-end profit. That's the difference between how much the mortgage outstanding Bob has with G Money and the amount we sold the property to, minus their repayments over that period. So, £20,000 back-end profit.
So we made £42,000 on this property on average over that 5-year period. The important thing is that we paid £1,800 arrears, which of course we recouped back from the £7,000 deposit, which the buyer paid us when they moved in. But we haven't moved any tenants into the property, so therefore we have no expenses. The only thing we do is we collect the instalment and we pay Bob's mortgage for him. So we haven't actually had to get a mortgage or pay for a survey or worry about qualifying for a mortgage. So anybody here like one of those?
£42,000 for one deal.
Let's show you another babysit, third one. This is funny enough, it's another Bob, but this guy was a reluctant landlord. And again, he'd been trying to sell this property for about 8 months. He was being offered prices for the property, but not what he wanted. He had about £15,000 of equity tied up in this property, and that's what he wanted. He wanted his £15,000 out of the property, get rid of the tenants, get rid of the property, move away and get on with his life. So we said, Bob, how would it make you feel? Because this is one of the terms we always use. How would it make you feel if we could give you that £15,000 that you're looking for, but you give us a little bit of flexibility around the time scale in which we deliver the money to you? He said, well, I don't need the money immediately. As long as I get the £15,000, I can wait for it. So that's exactly what we agreed. We said, we'll babysit your property, we'll babysit your mortgage payments, and we'll deliver the £15,000 to you some way down the line at an agreed period of time. He was happy to do that, signed a legal document, and now we have control over the property. Again, we're looking for a buyer on an instalment contract.
Here is the power, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about the price. Please write this down. It's all about the terms. With instalment contracts, you're going to make lots of money if you understand that if somebody is asking for their full market value, if they want the price they want, give them the price. But in exchange, ask for flexible terms. Flexible terms. Basically, we agreed with Bob to pay £15,000 when our buyer completes. That could be in 5 years' time. It could be in 7 years' time. Basically, we've got £15,000 of their equity interest-free for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Do you think we can make some money out of this? Well, let's show you how we made some money. Well, we took £5,000 upfront from a buyer. Again, a nice couple living in Lewisham in London. They wanted to buy a house for themselves. This was a quite spacious 2-bedroom house in need of a little bit of repair. They had £11,000. They could have put all the deposit down, but I recommended them just put £5,000 down, the minimum deposit we require, and the rest of the money please spend on refurbishing the house and add value to the property. So that's exactly what they did. Right, again, the terms The reason we agreed to pay Bob the full market value he was after, we knew that his mortgage was very cheap. When we looked at his mortgage paperwork, JP Morgan, what's the interest rate? 2.25. Well, we can make great cash out of this. So rather than we make our money from a reduced price, we can make the money from the massive monthly cash flow we're getting. So £480 net cash flow, mortgage dirt cheap. Over a 5-year period, £28,800. Great cash flow. Back end profit, actually £37,000. We sold the property quite above the market value. So if in 5 years' time our buyers decide to cash out, we're going to have £37,000 cash back. But remember, we promised to pay Bob £15,000. So deduct that, we're going to have 22 ourselves. Total profit, 55,800. How many of you now would like this? Come on, all hands up. Thank you.
So again, reiterate, how much did we pay for this?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. We didn't pay anything towards arrears, no expenses whatsoever.
How many tenants have we moved in?
None.
Any repairs, any maintenance?
No repairs. They did the repairs with their savings they had.
Okay. There's a free recording of this presentation, so if anybody would like that recording, somebody's going to hand out some forms. If you put your name on the form, we'll send it to you, completely free of charge.
The camera's there, hopefully it's recorded.
Smart. Anyway, anybody here know what a lemon is? Anyone want to volunteer? Scott, what's a lemon?
An investment or property that you buy and it turns out to be not very good.
Good. So give us an example, Mesud.
Lemon is actually a property that you don't want to own. I know it's a good pride to call yourself a landlord and say, I have a portfolio of 30 properties. But how much money you're making? Well, next to nothing. Well, no point owning properties that are not making you any money. So it looks a bit like that. If the house value is £100,000 and you have a mortgage outstanding of £110,000, your property is £10,000 in negative equity. That's a typical lemon. It's usually a property that you bought at the heart of the market, and because of the credit crunch, that market has shrunk, and that has created some negative equity. So if you had to get rid of this property, it would cost you £10,000 to sell it today. Also, it could be a property, a lemon could be a property that is not cash flowing. Basically, the rent, click. Basically, the rent could be £525, but the monthly outgoings is £645. So it costs you £120. The monthly outgoings could be the mortgage, plus the service charge, plus the ground rent, or any maintenance charges added to that property. So you don't want to own this property. No point having a portfolio full of these.
Does anybody here have one of these, or similar, or close to? I don't mind admitting that I do. I have a few of them actually, because in the mid-2000s, investors were buying new builds off plan in every city centre in the country, on every bay, on every waterfront. And unfortunately, a lot of those investments are now in negative equity, and worse still, negative cash flow. And right now, I feel as I've been served up a lemon.
What does that do to you?
Well, it drains your pockets, for one thing. Makes you feel broke. Because you think, well, what can you do with something that has less value than the outstanding mortgage? So let's show you an example of a property that I actually own. Property in centre of Manchester, on the canal, lovely location. In fact, it was such a good deal, I bought two of them, because the builder gave me, or the developer gave me £12,000 cash back on each of them.
Wow.
So I've got two apartments, £24,000 in the bank. I don't even need to get a tenant. Unfortunately today, they're lemons.
How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel as though I've been, I've gone out for a steak, and I've been served up a lemon and I don't know what to do with it. What do you do with a property that is worth less than the outstanding debt? You wait for the value to come back again?
Let me tell you a story about this property. Basically, Doug bought the file one day and just put it on my desk. I said, okay, can you tell me about it? He said, I don't want to tell you anything about it, just open the file and sort it out for me. I opened the file, I just researched the address and looked for comparable properties. There was another property for sale in the same development, I think it was on the 4th floor, one bedroom again, £99,000. Looked at the pages on the mortgage statement. On the mortgage statement, current mortgage outstanding, NRAM, 138,500.
134.
Sorry?
134.
138 or 500. You wish. So it was about £40,000 in negative equity, maybe more. So it was a proper big lemon. So Doug, I said, don't worry mate, we probably can sell it on instalment contract. So I put it on right move, £5,000, moves it in, no mortgage required, £807 a month. The flat is yours. Nice, 1 bedroom, luxury apartment in central Manchester. Total purchase price 143,999. How much more is that's above market value? 99 is the regular, 143,999. Quite a lot above market value, isn't it? Many of you will say it's impossible to sell. You'll never sell that. Well, in fact, we did. A guy called us and said, well, I am a coach driver and I travel between Manchester and London every day. So I'd like to own a nice 1-bedroom flat myself in central Manchester so I can stay over rather than rent hotel rooms, rather than go for short-term lets. I didn't want to do that. All I want is own a 1-bedroom flat and I just want to move it. So amazing, thank you God. So we actually our tenant showed the flat. I never saw the buyer, and we paid £1,000 same day, and within 28 days we got the £5,000 deposit. That now creates £260 positive cash flow. Here is the secret. When you sell a property on an instalment contract, you have a buyer. On option, you have a tenant buyer. Right, on option, when you sell an option, you have to provide an assured short-term tenancy agreement. You are still the landlord. Being the landlord, you are responsible for paying the service charge, you're responsible for paying the ground rent. Actually, the service charge and ground rent were creating the negative cash flow in this particular property. So because we moved the buyer in, now he is responsible for the service charge, now he is responsible for the ground rent. Also, he pays us quite a few percentage above what we are paying to Enron. So that created the £260 extra cash flow. Over a 5-year period, £15,000 cash flow. So we calculate in year 5, the amount he owes us and the amount we owe to Enron will be the same. So £20,000 profits from a property that was £40,000 in negative equity. How powerful is that? It's like magic, isn't it?
It's not only that, it's in fact we made 20,600 profit from that property that was in £40,000 negative equity. We've made up the 40,000 negative equity, so in fact the profit on this was £60,000 on a property that I couldn't sell, nobody would buy from me. The fact is that there are thousands of these around today. Investors and property owners have these properties and want to get rid of them and can't. If somebody just knew how to do it, you could make a fortune. And do you know how much it would cost you to pick them up? Somebody would be prepared to pay you to take the problem away. If somebody approached me and said, I'll take that problem away from you, that £40,000 negative equity, worse still, £120 a month negative cash flow, which I was taking out of my pocket every month and paying to the lender, I'll take the problem away from you for £10,000. I probably would have jumped at it. The fact is there are lots and lots of investors out there that will be prepared to do that today.
How many of you would like to make 20 grand by helping other investors to get rid of their lemons? Let's show you another level where we make even more money.
Sky Studios in opposite City Airport in London. And this lady was about to be repossessed again. We simply went to court with her and we offered the judge £100 a month over and above the normal monthly mortgage payments, which he agreed. So we agreed with the lady that we'd control the property, she'd move away. The problem is that the property's in serious negative equity. In fact, it's £65,000 in negative equity. She was another one that was buying properties at the same time as me. Off development, off plan. Great deal, no money down. So the benefit of this particular property was we identified was again it had a low monthly mortgage payment. Mortgage Express, 1.75% above base. That's 2.25. Lifetime tracker. It's never going to go up until the Bank of England increase. but it's always going to be 1.75% above base for the life of the mortgage. So we identified that that was going to make us a huge amount of cash flow. Mesud, we sold it on an instalment contract. Give us the numbers.
Well, let me give you a little tip about the value. We estimated it's worth 170. It was worth 170. Now the London market has picked up a little bit, but at the time it was worth 170 because another two-bedroom flat in the same block was sold for that amount of money. The mortgage outstanding was 232, basically nearly 65,000 to 70,000 pounds in negative equity. So we sold the property to a buyer from all the way from Leeds. She just got a job in central London, and rather than rent a property, because the amount of money we were charging for monthly instalment was the same as it would cost you to rent the same apartment. So we offered her, Barbara would like to buy this property with £7,000 deposit, no mortgage required, £1,113 a month, and the flat is yours. She loved it. She said, I can't buy a flat anywhere else in the UK under these terms. And it's exactly where I want it to be. It's like 5 stops from where I work. So she moved in within days. We took £7,000 deposit. Now this property makes £551 net cash flow after the £100 we pay towards reducing the arrears. So after the arrears are paid, we can make even more cash flow. So £33,000 for a 6-year period from a £65,000 negative equity property. Massive.
Profit on that?
£40,000 net profit.
How much did we pay for this?
Nothing.
How many tenants are we looking after?
Zip.
What price did you agree with the buyer?
239,999.
So let's have a look at something that may be more familiar with you, which is a simple purchase with a buy-to-let mortgage. A traditional purchase, but with a twist at the end, which is interesting. So this is a property that's owned by a lady named Jane in Jellicoe Avenue, down in Kent. The value of the property is £160,000. She's been trying to sell it for some time and wasn't receiving full offers. Her mortgage outstanding is £24,000, and we asked what she wanted and what she needed. What she wanted was £160,000, but what she needed was the money to pay off the mortgage and go and buy a caravan to put on a piece of land that she owns and live there with her horses and her grandchildren. And she needed £78,000 to buy the caravan, some caravan for £78,000. So we looked at what she needed and we agreed to give her £110,000 now, with the promise that we would pay a further £25,000 later on. So you notice 110 and 25 comes to 135. The reason why we come to that number is because the house next door. Tell us about the house next door.
Well, the house next door was for sale as well, but it was a probate property. Basically, it was massively overgrown. The garden, you couldn't get in without burning it. So it was that tall, even I can't describe. So the house was really, really bad condition, so it needed lots of renovation. 135 and it still wasn't sold. So I said, Jane, okay, I know your property is nice. Actually, her property was fantastic. She had carpets, this thing. Each internal door was £1,000. The bathroom had tiles imported from Italy, so it looked like a Hollywood bathroom. So the kitchen was top class. So the property had really, really quality feel for an ex-council house. You wouldn't believe it. You haven't seen an ex-council house that posh, I guarantee you. So, so I said, well, yours can't be so much more valuable than the one next door. Okay, probably a little bit more than what next door is worth. But that wasn't true. So, so she agreed. She said, okay. I said, Jane, we can do the following arrangement. We can pay your son now £110,000 to allow you to go and buy the caravan, and agree to pay you £25,000 within 5 years, or £35,000 if you're prepared to wait 10 years. She said, no way I can wait 10 years. I don't think I'm going to live for 10 years. So I would like the 5-year option. So we agreed the 5-year option.
So based on that, I popped off down to, well, I didn't go down to the bank actually, my mortgage broker arranged the mortgage for me. Based on the value of £160,000, I raised a mortgage of £120,000, 75% loan to value, the mortgage works. So I've raised £120,000, I gave her the 110 that I'd agreed, and of course I cashed out